Welcome, my friends. Imagine waking up one morning with your heart racing before your feet even touch the floor. Your mind is already spinning. Deadlines, unpaid bills, unresolved arguments, fears of the future. The weight of the world presses down, and for a moment, you feel like you might crumble under it all. But here's the truth that most people never realize. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply human, living in a world that's designed to steal your peace, overwhelm your mind, and make calmness feel impossible. Now, what if I told you that buried deep inside you is a hidden switch, a secret key that can transform the chaos in your mind into clarity, your stress into serenity, and your doubt into unshakable confidence? This isn't another shallow self-help lecture. This is a journey into the mind, the heart, and the unseen patterns that shape every moment of your life. Over the next hour, we'll explore powerful, life-changing strategies to rewire your brain, reclaim your peace, and unlock a life where challenges no longer control you, but you control your response to them. Grab a notebook, settle in, and get ready, because what you're about to hear could change the way you experience every single day of your life. The chaos before sunrise. Before the sun even rises, before your feet touch the ground, before your mind has a chance to understand the new day, something strange happens inside you. Your heart starts beating a little faster, your thoughts begin rushing in like a stampede, and suddenly you're overwhelmed by everything you haven't even faced yet. And you wonder, why does this happen to me every morning? Why can't I just wake up in peace? The truth is comforting. This chaos is not your personal failure, not a sign of weakness, not proof that your life is out of control. It is simply your brain doing what it has been trained to do for thousands of years: protect you. Long before alarms, office deadlines, or relationship worries existed, humans woke up every morning in survival mode. Our ancestors had to scan the environment instantly. Is there danger? Is there something I must do right now? How do I stay safe today? That ancient survival programming still lives in you. So the moment your awareness returns in the morning, your brain tries to prepare you for the day by running through every unfinished task, every fear, every responsibility. It believes it's helping you stay safe. But what it doesn't realize is that life has changed, yet the programming hasn't. Today, you're not running from predators or fighting for shelter. You're simply trying to live, to grow, to find peace. But your brain still thinks chaos equals protection. That's why you wake up overwhelmed. It's not because you're broken. It's because your mind is doing what it was designed to do, even though the danger it is preparing for doesn't exist. Understanding this changes everything. When you realize that the morning storm inside your mind is just an old survival reflex, you stop fighting it. You stop judging yourself. You stop thinking, why am I like this? And start thinking, my mind is trying to help me, but now I can guide it. And that shift from confusion to understanding becomes the first step towards morning peace. Because once you know the chaos isn't you, it becomes something you can calm, soothe, and slowly retrain. That's how the transformation begins. You are not broken. You are overloaded. There are days when you sit alone and wonder, why can't I stay calm? Why does my mind feel so heavy? Why does peace feel so far away from me? And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to believe that something is wrong with you. But the truth is simple, gentle, and healing. You are not broken. You are overloaded. Your nervous system, your mind, your heart, they are carrying far more than they were ever designed to hold. Humans were built for slow lives, walking on Earth, connecting with people face to face, resting after work, spending evenings in quiet. But today, your mind wakes up to alarms, notifications, messages, deadlines, expectations, comparisons, fears, and constant pressure to be better. You are chased by noise, surrounded by speed, drowning in information, and yet expected to smile as if it's all normal. Every time you scroll on your phone, your brain processes more information in 1 minute than your ancestors processed in an entire week. Every time you worry about the future, your nervous system reacts as if something dangerous is happening right now. And when you try to manage your family, your work, your dreams, your relationships, your money, your health all at once, your inner world starts shaking. Not because you are weak, not because you lack discipline, but because the modern world constantly demands more than your emotional system can naturally handle. That shaking inside you, that heaviness, that restlessness, it isn't a defect. It's a sign that you've been carrying too much for too long without a pause. Imagine a phone with too many apps running. It slows down, it heats up, it crashes. But you don't call the phone broken. You understand it needs to cool down and reset. The same is true for you. You're not damaged, you're overloaded. Your mind needs space, your heart needs softness, your nervous system needs breath, and your soul needs silence. Once you understand this, something magical happens. Instead of attacking yourself with judgments, you begin treating yourself with kindness. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you ask, "What do I need right now to feel lighter?" And this gentle shift from self-blame to self-understanding becomes the doorway to the peace that has always been waiting for you. The hidden switch within you. Deep inside every human being, including you, there is a silent switch. A small, invisible point where chaos turns into calm, where confusion melts into clarity, where fear dissolves into peace. Most people never learn about this switch, so they spend their whole life searching for peace outside, in relationships, in success, in money, in travel, in distractions, in new habits, in temporary escapes. But inner peace does not come from the outside world. It comes from this hidden switch that lives quietly within you. You may not see it, you may not feel it every day, but it is always there, waiting for you to press it. This switch is not a magical power or a spiritual secret. It is simply the ability to pause, breathe, observe your mind, and shift your focus inward. When life feels heavy and thoughts are racing, the mind automatically runs outward, trying to fix everything around you. But the more you chase, the more lost you become. Peace arrives the moment you stop running and turn inward. That is when the switch activates. It's the moment when you choose to respond instead of react, when you give yourself permission to take one deep breath before making a decision, when you allow your thoughts to slow down instead of fighting them, when you remember that your emotions are waves and you are the sky. The switch is triggered whenever you bring your awareness back to your body, your breath, your presence. It is triggered when you tell yourself, "Wait, I don't need to solve everything right now." It is triggered when you stop treating yourself like a machine and start treating yourself like a human being. Some people search for this switch for years and never find it because they look for peace in places where it doesn't exist, in control, in perfection, in approval, in speed. But the switch is not found in the world. It is found in a quiet moment inside you. And once you realize you have this power, once you understand that calmness is not something you chase, but something you activate, your entire life changes. You stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling broken. You stop feeling trapped by your emotions. Because you finally understand that peace is not something you wait for. Peace is something you turn on. The paradox of control. One of the biggest illusions in life is the belief that if we can just control everything around us, people, situations, outcomes, timing, relationships, opportunities, then we will finally feel safe, peaceful, and happy. But the strange truth, the paradox of control, is that the more tightly you try to hold life in your hands, the more it slips through your fingers. The harder you try to control everything, the more controlled you become by fear, anxiety, and expectation. Think about it. When you try to control people, you start worrying about their reactions. When you try to control the future, you become controlled by your own imagination. When you try to control outcomes, you become controlled by disappointment. Life was never built to be held still. It moves, it changes, it flows, it surprises. And when you fight that natural flow, you exhaust yourself. Imagine standing in a river with your hands out, trying to stop the water. No matter how strong you are, the river will push you, overwhelm you, and drain you. But the moment you stop resisting and start flowing with it, you find your balance. The same is true with life. When you loosen your grip, life becomes lighter. When you stop forcing things to happen exactly the way you want, you create space for better things to appear. Control doesn't bring peace, acceptance does. You don't need to control the thoughts of others, only your own intentions. You don't need to control the timing of life, only your consistent efforts. You don't need to control outcomes, only the quality of your actions. Once you understand this, a different type of peace enters your life, a peace that comes from trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in timing. And in that trust, something beautiful happens. The weight on your shoulders disappears, the pressure in your mind softens, and life starts to feel like something you can move through, not something you must fight. This is the paradox. When you stop trying to control everything, you finally feel in control of yourself. The director versus the character. In the silent theater of your mind, life often feels like a movie where you believe you must control every scene, adjust every character, fix every twist, and rewrite every outcome. And this illusion becomes the root of suffering. Imagine yourself not as the director of this massive film called life, but as one character, with a specific role, a unique journey, and your own evolution to experience. The pain begins when you try to sit in the director's chair, shouting orders at life, expecting everything and everyone to follow your script. But life has billions of characters, countless moving parts, and a storyline far bigger than your personal expectations. So the moment you try to control all of it, frustration becomes your daily emotion and exhaustion becomes your default state. Real peace comes the day you understand that your power lies not in controlling the movie, but in performing your scene with presence, honesty, and mastery. You are not here to direct fate, destiny, or the world. You are here to express your role with authenticity, to speak your truth, walk your journey, make your choices, respond with awareness, and let the rest unfold as it is meant to. When you stop fighting the uncontrollable, you start discovering the strength that was hidden within you all along. And when you let go of directing the entire movie, suddenly your part becomes clearer, lighter, more meaningful, and deeply connected to the flow of life.
The two circles that define your life. In the quiet structure of your daily life, everything you think about, worry about, stress over, or work on falls into two invisible circles, the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And the truth is, most people spend their entire life trapped in the wrong one. The circle of concern is huge, heavy, and endless. It includes things like what people think of you, the future you can't predict, the past you can't change, the economy, the behavior of others, the mistakes you fear, and the outcomes that are never fully in your hands. When your mind lives here, you feel powerless, anxious, and emotionally drained because you are mentally fighting battles you can never win. But then there is the second circle, the circle of influence, smaller yet infinitely more powerful, the space where your real life actually changes. It contains your actions, your habits, your responses, your discipline, your thoughts, your decisions, your effort, and the energy you bring into each moment. This circle is where growth happens, confidence builds, peace develops, and your identity strengthens. What most people don't realize is that the more time you spend in your circle of influence, the bigger it becomes, and the more time you spend in your circle of concern, the smaller you feel. Life becomes easier when you stop trying to fix what was never in your control and start nurturing what has always been in your hands. The shift is simple but life-changing. Move your attention from fear to action, from worry to clarity, from overthinking to responsibility. That is the moment when life stops overwhelming you and starts working with you. Traffic lesson: you cause 80% of your own stress. Picture this: you're stuck in a traffic jam. Honking horns, impatient drivers cutting in, red lights everywhere, and you're inching forward, or maybe not moving at all. Your heart rate climbs, your thoughts spiral, your mind races through all the tasks waiting for you, and your patience is evaporating. But the irony is, nothing about your stress is caused by the traffic itself. The world didn't stress you, your reaction did. The cars, the signals, the jam, they are neutral. They don't know your anxiety. They don't care about your deadlines, your fears, your judgments. Your stress comes from inside. It comes from the constant story playing playing in your mind. I'm late, I'm wasting time, this is unfair, I have so much to do, how will I catch up? And in that moment, your nervous system treats the situation like a threat. It elevates your heartbeat, tightens your chest, floods your body with tension, even though nowhere in that traffic jam is there any real danger. What if, instead, you treated that traffic jam not as a problem, but as a pause, a forced timeout in the chaos of life? What if you took a deep breath, softened your grip on frustration, and accepted that right now you can't do anything about what's happening outside? You can only change how you respond. This simple shift from fighting external circumstances to managing your internal state transforms your experience entirely. The cars don't decide your mood, your reaction does. And when you realize this, you reclaim your power. Traffic becomes a moment of reflection, a time for a calming practice, a chance to observe your mind, a reminder that you are not your environment, you are the awareness behind it. The inner circle, your true power zone. Deep inside you, beyond the noise of the world and the chaos of daily life, lies a small but incredibly powerful circle, the inner circle, the space where your real strength, freedom, and peace come from. This circle is made up of the 4 things you can truly control: your thoughts, your actions, your habits, and your reactions. Everything else outside of this is unpredictable, temporary, and often uncontrollable. But these 4 inner elements are your personal power zone, the foundation of who you become and how you experience life. Your thoughts shape the way you interpret the world. They can either lift you or sink you. Your actions decide your direction. Every step you take becomes a brick in the building of your future. Your habits quietly create your identity. What you repeat every day becomes who you are. And your reactions, perhaps the most powerful part, determine your peace, because the world will always challenge you, but your inner response is always yours to choose. The struggle begins when you try to control everything outside this circle: people's behavior, timing of events, outcomes, situations, all things that were never in your hands. But peace begins the moment you shift your focus inward and take responsibility for what is truly yours. When you strengthen your inner circle, everything outside becomes easier to handle. Problems feel lighter, chaos feels manageable, and life starts feeling less like a fight and more like a flow. This is where your true power lives, not in changing the world, but in mastering yourself.
The outer circle where peace goes to die. Beyond your inner circle lies a huge, chaotic, noisy space, the outer circle, the place where most people lose their peace without even realizing it. This is the circle where you try to control things that were never meant to be controlled by you. Other people's behavior, their opinions, their expectations, the future you cannot predict, the outcomes you cannot guarantee, the circumstances you cannot shape, and the situations that unfold far beyond your reach. The more energy you spend here, the more exhausted, anxious, irritated, and powerless you feel, because this circle is built on uncertainty, inconsistency, and realities that don't bend according to your wishes. You try to change a person who doesn't want to change. You try to force the future to match your timeline. You try to make everyone approve of you. You try to fix situations that are not your responsibility. And each attempt steals a little bit of your peace. The outer circle is like a desert. No matter how much effort you pour in, it never gives you anything back. And the painful truth is that most of your stress, overthinking, frustration, and emotional struggle comes from trying to manage this outer world instead of mastering your inner one. But the moment you stop investing your energy in the uncontrollable and start returning your focus to what is truly yours, your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your reactions, your peace begins to rise naturally. Life becomes lighter, relationships become healthier, and your mind becomes clearer. The outer circle will always exist, but freedom comes when you stop living in it. The magic of flipping the circles. There is a quiet kind of magic that unfolds in your life the moment you stop obsessing over outcomes and start focusing on your effort. A shift so simple yet so powerful that it changes the way you move through the world. Most people spend their energy in the wrong direction. They cling to results, fear the future, try to predict what will happen, and measure their worth by outcomes they cannot fully control. But the real transformation happens when you flip the circles, when you stop pouring your strength into the outer circle and begin investing it into your inner circle. Instead of worrying about whether people will praise you, you focus on doing your best work. Instead of stressing about the future, you give your fullest effort in the present. Instead of forcing situations to go your way, you show up consistently and let life respond naturally. When you shift from controlling results to controlling effort, life suddenly becomes smoother, lighter, and more balanced, because pressure reduces and clarity expands. You realize that outcomes are not your job, effort is. Growth is your job, timing is not. Showing up is your job, success is a byproduct. And slowly, without forcing anything, life begins to align in ways you never expected. The magic lies in this truth. When you master your effort, outcomes quietly start taking care of themselves. A promotion story about letting go. Imagine an employee who works hard, shows up every day, gives their best, and wants a promotion more than anything. But instead of focusing on excellence, they become obsessed with the outcome, constantly thinking, when will they promote me? Why haven't they noticed me? What if they choose someone else? Their anxiety grows, their confidence shrinks, and their energy scatters. They start overthinking every meeting, every conversation, every decision. Work stops feeling like growth and starts feeling like pressure. Now imagine the same person making one simple shift, letting go of the outcome and giving full attention to the process. Instead of worrying about recognition, they focus on becoming excellent. Instead of stressing over approval, they improve their skills. Instead of chasing validation, they deliver value. With this shift, their energy becomes lighter, their presence becomes stronger, and their work becomes naturally more impactful. Colleagues begin noticing the confidence, leaders begin noticing the consistency, and results begin unfolding without force. In the end, the promotion comes, not because of anxiety, but because of alignment. This story teaches a powerful truth. Anxiety slows success, but surrender accelerates it. When you let go of the result and put your heart into the process, life opens doors that worry could never unlock. The moment you stop chasing outcomes, outcomes start moving toward you.
Revolutionary gratitude. Revolutionary gratitude is not about writing 5 things you are thankful for, not about forcing a smile, and not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It is a deeper, quieter, more courageous kind of gratitude, the kind that is born inside pain, not outside it. It is the moment when life hits you hard, when plans break, when people disappoint you, when a chapter ends unexpectedly, and instead of collapsing, you pause and ask, what is this trying to teach me? This form of gratitude doesn't deny your suffering, it transforms it. It helps you see that every heartbreak made you wiser, every failure shaped your discipline, every loss sharpened your clarity, and every difficult moment pushed you closer to the person you are meant to become. Revolutionary gratitude is understanding that pain is not a punishment, it is a teacher. It's realizing that the challenges you curse today may become the strength you rely on tomorrow. It's knowing that even in your darkest season, life is quietly rearranging things in your favor. When you practice this kind of gratitude, you stop fighting your story and start growing through it. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? The pain doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. And slowly, you rise, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you learned to find meaning, power, and purpose inside the very moments that tried to break you. Finding gold in the shadows. Every struggle you face, every fear you carry, every disappointment that breaks your expectations, all of them hide a form of gold that most people never look for. We are taught to run from pain, escape discomfort, avoid challenges, and bury anything that feels heavy. But the truth is, the shadows of your life hold some of your greatest treasures. Think of a moment when something didn't go your way, a relationship that ended, a plan that collapsed, an opportunity that slipped away. At first, all you see is darkness, confusion, and loss. But if you pause, breathe, and look a little deeper, you will find a hidden gift waiting inside that moment. A lesson you needed, a strength you didn't know you had, a new direction you wouldn't have explored, or a clarity you were missing. Shadows reveal things that the light cannot. They show you what needs healing, what needs letting go, and what needs rebuilding. Most people never search for this gold because they are too busy blaming the world, feeling helpless, or running from uncomfortable truths. But the brave ones, the aware ones, the evolving ones, they walk into the shadows with curiosity instead of fear. And what they find there changes their life. Because the moment you start looking for meaning inside your struggle stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest guide. In every darkness, there is a hidden spark, and when you learn to find it, you transform not just the situation, but yourself. The story of Sarah, losing a job, finding a life. Sarah had a stable job, a predictable routine, and a life that looked successful from the outside, yet deep inside, she felt a quiet emptiness she never told anyone about. Every morning she woke up tired, dragging herself through work that didn't inspire her, pretending she was fine, convincing herself that this was what adulthood was supposed to feel like. Then, one day without warning, she was laid off. At first, everything collapsed inside her. Panic, fear, shame, confusion. She kept asking, why me? What will I do now? For weeks, she felt lost, as if life had pushed her off a cliff without a safety rope. But slowly, as the noise of fear settled, something unexpected began to rise in the silence: clarity. For the first time in years, she asked herself what she truly wanted, not what others expected from her. She remembered her childhood dreams, her forgotten passions, the creative spark she once buried under responsibilities. With time, she began exploring new interests, taking small steps, and building a path that felt meaningful. She started freelancing, learned skills she always avoided, connected with people who inspired her, and discovered a freedom she never knew existed. Weeks turned into months, and Sarah realized something profound. Losing her job wasn't the end, it was the beginning. It was life removing what was wrong so she could make space for what was right. The job she lost was the life she had outgrown. The life she found was the one she was meant to live. And if you look closely at your own story, you may find that some of the losses you feared the most were actually gifts in disguise, gently redirecting you toward your true path.
3 daily gratitude questions that rewire the brain. Gratitude is not just a feel-good practice. It is a powerful rewiring tool for the brain, but only when done the right way. Most people write random good things and call it gratitude, but true transformation comes from asking deeper questions, questions that reveal learning, protection, and personal growth hidden inside your ordinary days. Every night before you sleep, pause and ask yourself, what did today teach me? This question turns even small moments into wisdom. Maybe a difficult conversation taught you patience. Maybe a mistake taught you awareness. Maybe a success taught you confidence. Maybe silence taught you clarity. Then ask, how was I protected today? Notice the danger you avoided, the negativity you escaped, the situations that could have been worse but weren't. See how life quietly shields you in ways you often overlook. And finally ask, how did I grow today? Maybe you controlled your anger. Maybe you were kinder than yesterday. Maybe you chose discipline over comfort. Maybe you simply survived a tough moment, and that too is growth. These 3 questions shift your mind from stress to strength, from fear to understanding, from complaint to clarity. They train your brain to notice progress instead of problems, blessings instead of burdens. And when practiced daily, they slowly reshape your inner world, making your thoughts lighter, your heart calmer, and your life more meaningful. Not by changing what happens to you, but by changing how you see it. Benefit-finding vision. Every challenge, every mistake, every uncomfortable moment carries a hidden lesson, but most people fail to see it because their eyes are trained only to spot problems. Benefit-finding vision is the conscious practice of training yourself to look deeper, to search for the hidden value in every situation, and to shift your focus from what went wrong to what can be learned. It's about noticing that criticism from a colleague is actually feedback for growth, that a failed project is a chance to refine your skills, that a difficult conversation is an opportunity to strengthen relationships, and that every setback carries wisdom if you're willing to see it. Developing this vision transforms how life feels. Stress shrinks, clarity expands, and resilience grows. Instead of feeling like life is happening to you, you begin to feel like life is teaching you, guiding you, and helping you evolve. It's not about denying pain or pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing the silver lining even in clouds, the lesson even in failure, and the opportunity even in adversity. When you cultivate benefit-finding vision, your mind stops wandering in fear or regret and start scanning for growth, turning ordinary, even painful moments into stepping stones for a stronger, wiser, and more empowered self. Gratitude during hard times. It might feel impossible to be grateful when life hurts, when loss strikes, when plans collapse, or when fear and uncertainty dominate your mind. Yet, this is exactly the moment when gratitude has the deepest power. Gratitude during hard times is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about seeing beyond the immediate pain and recognizing that even in struggle, life is giving you lessons, protection, and unexpected gifts. When you choose gratitude in these moments, you shift your focus from victimhood to awareness, from frustration to learning, from despair to possibility. It allows you to notice that the challenges you face are shaping resilience, that the obstacles are teaching patience, that the setbacks are redirecting you toward growth, and that even pain itself is a teacher, guiding you toward wisdom you could not gain any other way. Practicing gratitude when life is painful doesn't erase suffering, but it changes your experience of it, turning each hardship into a moment of insight, each difficulty into an opportunity, and each loss into a chance to grow stronger and wiser. Over time, this practice rewires your mind to naturally seek meaning in adversity, creating a quiet strength that remains unshaken even when the world feels heavy. It is in the darkest moments that the light of gratitude shines brightest, illuminating paths that fear alone could never reveal.
Mark's divorce transformation. Mark's life once felt predictable and safe, anchored by his marriage, routines, and the illusion of stability. But when the divorce came, everything he had built crumbled, leaving him bitter, angry, and convinced that life was unfair. At first, he resisted, replaying grievances, blaming himself and others, and drowning in frustration. Yet slowly, as the dust of loss settled, he began to notice something unexpected: growth. Mark realized that when something breaks, it forces you to confront parts of yourself you never examined before. He learned to cook, manage finances, and care for himself in ways he had never needed to before. He reconnected with friends he had neglected and rediscovered hobbies and passions that had been buried under the weight of routine. The challenges of single life pushed him to communicate better, to make decisions independently, and to embrace his own worth without relying on validation from others. Through the pain, he discovered resilience, self-reliance, and a deeper understanding of what he truly wanted from life and relationships. Mark's transformation teaches a profound truth. Real growth often only happens when life breaks you, stripping away comfort and forcing you to build yourself anew. The fracture becomes fertile soil, and what emerges is not just recovery, but a stronger, wiser, and more empowered version of yourself. Appreciating the invisible gifts of life. Every day we walk through life carrying countless invisible gifts, yet most of us take them for granted. Clean water flows from our taps, air fills our lungs effortlessly, our hearts beat without conscious thought, and we move through spaces that are safe and familiar. These are miracles we rarely stop to notice, yet they form the foundation of our existence. Awareness itself, the ability to think, to reflect, to feel, to choose, is perhaps the greatest gift of all, yet it is so ordinary to us that we often overlook it. When you pause to truly appreciate these invisible blessings, life begins to feel richer, calmer, and more meaningful. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. A sip of water reminds you of life's sustenance, a deep breath reconnects you with presence, the safety of your surroundings becomes a luxury to be cherished, and awareness allows you to navigate the world with intentionality rather than mere habit. Gratitude for these unseen gifts transforms your perspective. You begin to notice abundance where before there was only routine, and contentment replaces restless craving. By acknowledging the simple miracles that sustain you every moment, you create a foundation of peace and fulfillment that no external circumstance can shake. Life, in its quietest form, is already a treasure, and the moment you see it, everything changes. Emotional weather versus emotional identity. Emotions are like weather patterns. They come and go, sometimes stormy, sometimes sunny, but they are never permanent, and they do not define who you are. Yet most people live as if their feelings are their identity, saying, "I am angry, I am sad, or I am anxious," as though the emotion itself is a permanent state rather than a passing experience. The truth is, you are not your emotions. You are the observer of them.
Anger, sadness, fear, joy, and excitement are temporary currents flowing through your consciousness, and recognizing this distinction is life-changing. When you start seeing emotions as weather rather than identity, you gain a space of freedom, a pause between stimulus and reaction, where choice and clarity emerge. A sudden wave of frustration doesn't have to dictate your words or actions. A moment of fear doesn't have to control your decisions. You can acknowledge the feeling, feel it fully, and then decide consciously how to respond. This perspective creates emotional resilience. Instead of being swept away by every storm, you learn to ride through it, observe it, and eventually let it pass. Life becomes less reactive, less overwhelming, and more intentional when you understand that while emotions will always visit, they do not define the essence of who you are.
The stop method, a 60-second reset. The stop method is a simple yet powerful tool that can instantly reset your emotional state, even in moments of intense stress or overwhelm. Life often hits us with sudden waves of frustration, anxiety, or anger, and without a pause, our reactions can spiral, creating more chaos than the original problem. Stop gives you a pause, a moment to step out of automatic reactivity and reclaim control. The first step, S for stop, is about literally halting the momentum of your emotion. Say it aloud or in your mind. Stop. This interrupts the automatic chain reaction of thoughts and feelings. The second step, T for take a breath, focuses on deep, intentional breathing. Inhale slowly through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and then exhale through the mouth for 6 counts. The longer exhale activates your body's natural relaxation response, calming the nervous system. The third step, O for observe, invites you to notice your emotion with curiosity, not judgment. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What triggered this? What is this emotion trying to tell me? Observation creates a space between you and the emotion, preventing it from controlling your behavior. The final step, P for proceed with intention, allows you to choose your response consciously. Instead of reacting impulsively, ask, what is the most helpful, constructive way to respond right now? Practicing the stop method regularly, even in small, everyday irritations, strengthens your emotional control, so that when a major stressor arises, you are already equipped to respond calmly, thoughtfully, and intentionally. In just 60 seconds, you can transform a potentially chaotic moment into clarity, composure, and conscious choice. The 4-4-6 breath. The 4-4-6 breath is a simple, scientifically backed technique that can instantly calm your mind and nervous system, even when stress feels overwhelming. In today's fast-paced world, our bodies are often stuck in a constant state of tension, the sympathetic nervous system on high alert, keeping us anxious, restless, and reactive. The 4-4-6 breath acts like a reset button. Here's how it works. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 counts, hold the breath gently for 4 counts, and then exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 counts. That longer exhale is the secret. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural relaxation response, lowering heart rate, reducing muscle tension, and quieting racing thoughts. What makes this technique so effective is its simplicity and accessibility. You don't need special equipment, a quiet room, or a large block of time. You can practice it anywhere, sitting at your desk, stuck in traffic, or even in the middle of a tense conversation. The key is awareness and consistency. By bringing full attention to your breath, noticing the inhale, the pause, and the exhale, you shift your focus from stressors outside yourself to the calm within. With regular practice, the 4-4-6 breath becomes an automatic tool, a nervous system hack that allows you to pause, reset, and respond, rather than react. It's a small, silent practice with enormous power, giving you control over your state of mind in moments when life feels chaotic. Detaching from emotional storms. Emotions, especially strong ones like anger, fear, or sadness, often feel like storms that sweep through our mind and body, leaving chaos in their wake. Most people respond as if the emotion defines them, thinking, I am angry, or I am anxious, and immediately get swept into reactions that escalate the turmoil. Detaching from emotional storms is the practice of creating space between yourself and the emotion, shifting from I am this feeling to I notice this feeling. By observing your anger rather than identifying with it, you step back into the role of the conscious observer, regaining clarity and choice. This doesn't mean suppressing or denying the emotion. It is still fully felt, fully acknowledged, but you no longer allow it to hijack your actions or your day. Over time, this practice rewires your relationship with your inner world. You begin to see emotions as passing weather patterns, sometimes intense, sometimes calm, but never permanent, and never the essence of who you are. Detachment allows you to respond with intention rather than react impulsively, to act from wisdom rather than from turmoil. It turns every emotional storm into a teacher, showing you where to grow, what to release, and how to strengthen your inner calm. By practicing this consistently, anger becomes information, fear becomes insight, and even sadness becomes a guide, transforming turbulent inner experiences into moments of clarity and empowerment.
Savoring micro moments of joy. Life is full of small, fleeting moments of joy that often pass unnoticed. A warm cup of tea, a kind word from a friend, a laugh shared, or the soft glow of sunlight on your skin. Most people move through these moments without fully experiencing them, their minds already racing to the next task or worry. Savoring micro moments of joy is the practice of pausing and immersing yourself fully in these brief experiences, even if only for 20 seconds. During this time, notice the sensations in your body, the feelings in your heart, the small details that make this moment pleasurable or meaningful. Let yourself feel gratitude, warmth, or happiness fully, without distraction. By doing this consistently, you begin to deposit emotional wealth into your mind and body, reserves of positive energy that you can draw upon when stress or difficulty arises. These micro-moments accumulate, gradually reshaping your emotional baseline, making joy more accessible and calmness more natural. Over time, you train your mind to recognize and amplify the good in everyday life, not just in extraordinary events. Savoring becomes a form of self-care, a conscious way to build resilience, and a reminder that even in chaos, small pockets of happiness are always available. It's in these tiny, mindful experiences that you cultivate a lasting sense of contentment and emotional richness that no external circumstance can take away. The 90-second emotion rule. Emotions are powerful, but they are also temporary by design. Research shows that the physiological surge of any emotion, anger, fear, sadness, or even joy, naturally lasts about 90 seconds. The problem is that most people extend the intensity of their emotions far beyond this short window by ruminating, overthinking, and creating stories around the feeling. When you catch yourself replaying an argument, imagining worst-case scenarios, or blaming yourself or others, you are feeding the emotion and allowing it to linger far longer than it naturally would. Understanding the 90-second rule is liberating because it separates the raw, natural emotion from the endless cycle of mental commentary that magnifies it. When you notice a strong emotion arising, remind yourself that the surge will peak and fade naturally within a minute and a half. You don't have to add fuel to it. You can observe it, feel it, and let it pass without letting it hijack your day or dictate your reactions. Practicing this awareness transforms how you experience emotional storms. Instead of being overwhelmed, you become the calm observer, capable of responding with clarity and wisdom. Over time, the 90-second rule builds resilience, emotional independence, and the understanding that feelings are transient guests, powerful while present, but never permanent, giving you the freedom to move through life with more control, calm, and confidence. The presentation story, from panic to poise. Imagine standing in front of a room full of colleagues, the weight of expectations pressing down, and suddenly realizing you've made a major mistake in your presentation. Most people would immediately panic, feel their heart race, and imagine the worst-case scenarios: lost credibility, embarrassment, or even job consequences. This is where choosing presence over panic becomes a superpower. Instead of spiraling, take a conscious pause, acknowledge the mistake without judgment, breathe deeply to calm your nervous system, and shift your focus to what can be done right now. In this moment, presence replaces panic and clarity begins to emerge. By focusing on what you can control, correcting the error, continuing the presentation, maintaining composure, You turn a potentially disastrous situation into an opportunity to demonstrate resilience and professionalism. The anxiety that initially seemed overwhelming begins to dissolve because you are no longer feeding it with catastrophic thoughts. You are simply responding with intention. In this story, the presenter finished strong, received compliments for handling the mistake gracefully, and learned a profound lesson. Crises do not define you, your reactions do. Choosing presence over panic transforms fear into focus, chaos into clarity, and stress into mastery, showing that even in the most intense moments, calmness and poise are available the instant you consciously step into them. Your inner voice, the most important conversation. Every day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, there is a conversation happening inside your mind, your inner voice. Most people barely notice it, yet it shapes how they perceive themselves, interpret the world, and respond to life's challenges. This inner dialogue can be supportive and inspiring, or it can be harsh, critical, and limiting, often echoing old messages from childhood, society, or past failures. Many of us live under the influence of this voice without realizing its power, believing its criticisms as truths. You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. Or everyone is judging you. But here's the truth. Your inner voice is not you. It's a reflection of learned patterns, fears, and conditioning. The conscious, aware part of you has the ability to observe this voice, question it, and even rewrite it. By noticing what your inner dialogue says and intentionally choosing words of encouragement, curiosity, and kindness, you can transform your identity, your confidence, and your experience of life. The conversations you have with yourself shape your beliefs, influence your choices, and determine the emotional tone of your days. When you take control of this inner dialogue, you shift from being passively influenced by mental chatter to actively creating a mind that serves you, turning fear into courage, doubt into clarity, and limitation into possibility. The dialogue within is, in fact, the most important conversation you will ever have because it quietly, continuously crafts the person you become and the life you experience. The inner bully. One of the most surprising and painful truths about human psychology is that the harshest critic you will ever face often lives inside your own mind. This inner bully shows up as a relentless voice that belittles your achievements, magnifies your mistakes, and questions your worth at every turn. Unlike external critics, this voice feels intimate and unavoidable, making its judgments feel personal and absolute. It may whisper, "You're not good enough," "You'll fail," or "No one truly likes you." And because it is familiar, most people accept it as truth without question. But here's the reality. This inner bully is not a reflection of who you really are. It is a collection of old programming, fears, and limiting beliefs absorbed from parents, teachers, peers, and society over the years. The key to overcoming it is awareness, noticing the voice, recognizing it as separate from your true self, and questioning its authority. By observing without judgment, you gain the power to respond with compassion, reframing criticism into guidance, doubt into curiosity, and fear into action. Over time, this practice transforms the inner bully from a tyrant into a teacher, revealing patterns to release and strengths to cultivate. Understanding that this voice is not your identity, but a mental habit you can reshape, is profoundly liberating. It allows you to reclaim control over your mind, your choices, and ultimately, your life, replacing self-sabotage with self-mastery and inner peace. The origin of self-criticism. Most of the critical voices we hear inside our heads didn't originate from us. They were handed down from the people and systems around us. Parents, teachers, peers, and society left impressions that became internalized over time, often without our conscious awareness. A parent's high expectations, a teacher's harsh feedback, or society's rigid standards can quietly shape our inner dialogue, teaching us to doubt ourselves, fear failure, or constantly seek approval. These external voices were intended to guide, correct, or protect us, but when absorbed unexamined, they can morph into a relentless inner critic that follows us into adulthood. The voice that says, "You're not enough," or "You always mess things up," is often an echo of someone else's words or judgments that you learned to accept as your own truth. Understanding this origin is empowering because it separates you from the criticism. You can see it not as your identity, but learned programming that can be rewritten. By recognizing that much of your self-doubt was implanted by others, you can begin to question its accuracy, challenge its assumptions, and replace it with a voice that encourages, supports, and uplifts you. This awareness allows you to reclaim your mental space, take ownership of your self-perception, and consciously cultivate beliefs that reflect your true potential rather than someone else's expectations. Once you understand where self-criticism comes from, you no longer need to let it control your life. You can rewrite the script and become the supportive, wise voice your younger self always needed.
Awareness, the first step to freedom. The first step to reclaiming control over your mind and your life is awareness, truly hearing and noticing the voice inside your head. Most people live on autopilot, letting thoughts, judgments, and self-criticisms run unchecked, believing they are simply who they are. But change is impossible until you shine a light on what is happening internally. Awareness means slowing down enough to catch the inner dialogue as it arises, listening to the tone, the words, and the patterns without immediately reacting or judging. It's the moment you say, "Ah, there it is, the voice telling me I'm not enough," and instead of swallowing it as truth, you observe it objectively. This clarity creates a gap between you and the voice, giving you the space to question it, challenge it, and gradually rewrite it. Without awareness, the inner critic continues to dictate your actions, emotions, and sense of self, operating like a hidden autopilot steering your life. With awareness, you begin to see the difference between your true self and the learned, often unhelpful messages you've internalized. It is the doorway to freedom, the moment when you realize that while the voice may always exist, it no longer has to control you. Awareness is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a continuous attention to your inner world. And each time you notice, each time you pause, you strengthen your ability to choose, respond, and live in alignment with your true values and potential. David's story of chronic self-doubt. David was an exceptionally talented graphic designer, creative, skilled, and driven, yet he lived under a heavy cloud of self-doubt that sabotaged his confidence at every turn. Each project, no matter how successful, was shadowed by the inner narrative that whispered, "You're not good enough," or "They'll see you're a fraud." Even when clients praised his work, his mind dismissed it as luck or temporary mistake-proofing rather than genuine talent. This chronic self-doubt is a perfect example of how our inner narratives, shaped by past experiences, societal expectations, and internalized criticism, can quietly erode confidence, making even capable individuals question their abilities and worth. David's story shows that talent alone isn't enough. The stories we tell ourselves have immense power to shape our actions, decisions, and emotional state. The turning point for him came when he consciously began observing his inner dialogue, writing it down, and separating the harsh, automatic voice from his true capabilities. By seeing the critical thoughts as patterns rather than facts, he began to reclaim his confidence, make decisions with clarity, and approach his work with calm focus instead of paralyzing anxiety. David's journey teaches that no matter how skilled or accomplished you are, unchecked inner narratives can quietly sabotage your potential. But with awareness, reflection, and conscious rewriting of those stories, even the most persistent self-doubt can be transformed into self-belief and empowerment. The lie of "I'm not enough." One of the most insidious and pervasive beliefs people carry is the idea that they are fundamentally not enough, not smart enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough of love, success, or happiness. This belief is like a hidden virus that quietly infiltrates every area of life, shaping decisions, behaviors, and emotions without conscious awareness. It creeps into your career when you hesitate to apply for a promotion, undercharge for your work, or avoid opportunities because you feel unqualified. It creeps into relationships when you settle for less than you deserve, fear expressing your needs, or overcompensate to gain approval. It creeps into personal growth when you abandon goals before even trying, doubting that you can achieve them. The lie of "I'm not enough" doesn't reflect reality. It is the echo of old programming, past criticism, and societal comparisons that you internalized over time. The challenge is that once you accept this belief as truth, it creates a self-perpetuating cycle. Feeling inadequate leads to actions that reinforce inadequacy, which strengthens the belief, which then influences more actions, and so on. Breaking this cycle requires conscious awareness, noticing when this thought arises, questioning its validity, and deliberately replacing it with truth. I am capable, I am learning, I am enough as I am. This is not about arrogance or denial. It is about reclaiming your mind from an old story that no longer serves you. Understanding the lie of I'm not enough and actively confronting it frees you to pursue opportunities, engage fully in relationships, and live life from a place of authenticity, courage, and inner confidence.
Rewriting your inner story. The stories we tell ourselves shape who we become, how we act, and how we experience life. Much of the time, these stories are written unconsciously, filled with limiting beliefs, harsh judgments, and old programming from past experiences. Phrases like, I can't, I'm not good enough, or I failed, repeat over and over in our minds, quietly dictating our confidence, decisions, and potential. Rewriting your inner story is about consciously choosing new narratives that empower rather than restrict. Instead of, I can't, you can say, I'm learning, shifting from paralysis to curiosity and growth. Instead of, I failed, you can say, I grew, turning setbacks into lessons and opportunities for development. This practice requires awareness, repetition, and compassion toward yourself, noticing the old story when it arises, pausing, and intentionally reframing it with words that reflect growth, possibility, and self-belief. Over time, these new narratives become automatic, reshaping your inner dialogue, your habits, and ultimately the trajectory of your life. The power of rewriting your inner story is that it transforms the way you see challenges, handle emotions, and engage with the world, allowing you to live with resilience, confidence, and a sense of freedom from the limiting beliefs that once held you back. This is not about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing to interpret your experiences in a way that builds strength, learning, and self-trust. Becoming the observer, not the victim. One of the most transformative shifts in personal growth is learning to become the observer of your mind rather than a victim of its constant chatter. Most people live as if every thought, emotion, and impulse defines who they are, reacting automatically and feeling at the mercy of their inner storms. Anger, fear, sadness, or self-doubt can feel overwhelming because we identify with them, saying, I am angry, or I am inadequate, as if these fleeting experiences are permanent truths. Becoming the observer means stepping back and noticing these thoughts and emotions without judgment, recognizing that they are temporary events passing through your consciousness, not fixed aspects of your identity. This perspective creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose how to act instead of reacting impulsively or being swept away by negative feelings. As an observer, you develop clarity, calm, and resilience, understanding that emotions are like weather patterns. They rise, peak, and fade naturally if not fed by mental stories or resistance. Over time, practicing observation strengthens emotional independence and allows you to respond to challenges with wisdom, patience, and presence rather than anxiety or frustration. By watching your thoughts without becoming them, you reclaim control over your inner world, reduce unnecessary suffering, and cultivate a sense of freedom, presence, and self-mastery that can profoundly transform every aspect of your life. The transformation begins inside. True transformation doesn't start with your circumstances, your job, your relationships, or even your external environment. It starts within. The outer world is a reflection of your inner state, and the language you use in your mind sets the tone for how you experience life. When your thoughts are critical, fearful, or limited, your actions and outcomes naturally follow that pattern, creating frustration, anxiety, and stagnation. But the moment you consciously shift your inner language, replacing self-judgment with curiosity, doubt with possibility, and fear with courage, your perception, decisions, and behaviors begin to change in profound ways. This is why two people in identical situations can experience life completely differently. One feels trapped, stressed, and reactive, while the other approaches challenges with calm, confidence, and creativity. Transformation begins the moment you notice your inner dialogue, challenge limiting beliefs, and intentionally cultivate thoughts and words that support growth, resilience, and positivity. As your inner language changes, you begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles,
respond to difficulties with clarity instead of panic, and attract outcomes that reflect the best version of yourself. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't require waiting for external conditions to improve. The shift begins internally, and the outer world naturally aligns with your evolved mindset. When you invest in your inner transformation, everything around you begins to transform as well, creating a life that is not dictated by circumstance, but guided by the clarity, strength, and peace you cultivate within. If this journey through your mind and life resonated with you, don't let it end here. Hit like to show your commitment to your own growth, share this video with someone who needs a spark of clarity, and drop a comment sharing which insight hit you the hardest. And most importantly, subscribe to Bite-Sized Book, because every week we dive deep into stories and strategies that can transform your thinking, your habits, and your life. Remember, change begins the moment you choose to take it with you. And thank you for listening.